you promise that we sound good, I trust you.
Everybody sounds great.
Okay.
You sound beautiful and magical, and handsome and amazing.
What would Howard Stern do, though?
Baba Booey.
You know, in the year 2024, I'm not too sure if there's anything that we should do that Howard Stern would do. I mean,
John Roman.
Point taken.
Depending on, you know, what side of the social spectrum you want your morals to land.
Yeah.
I mean,
and how you wish to be viewed. This is the internet. Everybody's going to see this.
John Roman, if I asked you nicely, would you take your top off?
Well, rated eyes in the building. Make some noise.
Let's have Dave Grohl do that one song like acoustic.
Yeah, we'll get him in here.
Yeah, we'll love him.
Yeah, you know, radio's just not what it used to be.
Does it exist?
It does exist in some capacity. I think that there's billionaires funneling a ton of money into it to play car commercials in the same
pretty much
25 legacy Guns N' Roses and Fleetwood Mac and songs and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we just played on DVE morning show, which is like, you know, our iHeart
highly inappropriate, but really cool.
No one asked for it. Here you go.
I felt really good about that performance because it was kind of, I felt like it had to have been some kind of historical Pittsburgh first, like for that station.
Sure.
Just like having a band like ours. It's not, I don't know who they bring on.
It was anyone but the Clarks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool though to be put into a position like that because it's just fun when people think they understand your like air quote art or whatever the fuck you want to classify it as. And it's like not inappropriate for you to be on that station, but just like I know it's not like right.
It's a little left of center.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
But
it's like it's not so absurd that it's like, okay, why did they do this? But it's, you know.
Yeah.
We did bring it up.
It makes sense to me.
Wait 1 second. Welcome to Moe's.
Welcome to Mo.
Right.
Welcome.
Yeah.
It was a contractual obligation.
Guys, it's just me.
It was good stuff.
Yeah.
They catered our next gig.
Yeah, that was very nice.
Did they really?
Yes.
No, that's fucking cool.
Like for all the out of town bands, everything, we got to give them food.
Burrito bar
that rules.
at the government center.
Yeah. So this is two things. One, have you ever thought about people that work at Moe's and if they have like a trauma thing where anytime they hear a door open at all, their reflex is to say welcome to Moe's?
Yeah, I feel really bad for them.
That's anytime you have to like.
Wow.
Do they still do that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite is the Chick-fil-A thing where you have to say my pleasure if you say thank you. Like if you work at Chick-fil-A, like
oh really?
if you say thank you to the Chick-fil-A
I haven't chicked in a while,
That's
so
they have to say my pleasure.
My pleasure.
oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Fuck those people.
That would be a good like concept for a song.
We
Write
appreciate
a song
that.
called "My Pleasure"
We
about
appre-
Chick-fil-A.
We appreciate them working for us, but if they could just debase themselves, we'd really that would be very nice.
But back to DVE, I think the thing that is cool about it is that like it makes sense for your band, which for all intents and purposes is a rock band.
Yeah.
If you want, and without digging too deep into like the subculture spaghetti that we've gotten ourselves into over the past few decades, it's a rock band and they are a rock radio station. So yes, that makes sense, but it's funny.
So they ask for it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's cool because there are like people that work at these places that like are tired of hearing Enter Sandman.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't understand how anybody could ever possibly get sick of hearing Enter Sandman. But, there are people there that don't care about that stuff and do want to try to support local stuff. Same with the X, I guess, because my bands played the X and that was also inappropriate on like another scale.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying when this all got set up with the morning show is that I was like, it seems like we would be a better fit on Edge of the X. You know what I mean? Like the showcase of the local hard rock, whatever music,
Sure.
but I was happy
Well,
to zag.
I don't know the last time you've listened to the X, but it's funny like what like modern alternative rock is nowadays is like
What is it?
like Imagine Dragons.
3 Days Grace, which I know is also dated, but that's
Yeah,
like the lane.
it's like legacy marine rock.
Did you know that every branch of the military has like
Three
you know
doors
how they
down.
have
Yeah.
That's the the Godfathers.
every branch of the military, you know how they have like drum corps, jazz band. Every branch of the military has a rock ensemble.
Wow.
You
Good.
can check out their original music.
It's good that they get to at least do something fun.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the air. I remember checking out the Air Force band in particular. It's called Max Impact.
That's fucking
and it had this
sick.
dude who could like sing like Cornell, you know, like, get real high but yeah, sorry to
It's kind of a
digress, but it was related to that whole thing.
it's kind of a dark name for a band from the Air Force. Max Impact, like
That would be like
They knew.
yeah.
that would be like it sounds like a porn star name.
Force Impact.
Or it could be the bombs
Yeah.
they drop.
It's like that
Max
Simpsons episode, Max Power.
Yes. So cool. You played on the radio. How'd that go?
It's fine.
Yeah, it was like real smooth, all things considered.
So when you did it, it was the morning thing. So there wasn't like an audience or anything.
No,
No.
way.
no, they didn't even. We couldn't even see Randy and Abby because they were like in another room where they had probably a setup like this,
Okay.
and they were
yeah.
piping the audio from their mics into our monitors, which was in
Yeah.
a totally different room. So it was just the four of us and the engineer facing us out of the control room, and no people.
Got it.
Well, that's like what was so jarring kind of about it was that we got there in the morning, set up, waited, played the song, and then the morning show was over. So they came over and said like thanks and said what's up, and that was nice. And then we just left. There was like zero feedback except for them saying like that was good, which was nice of them to say. But like I have no idea who heard it, you know, organically in their car or whatever,
Sure.
and what they thought. There's no like zero feedback. I just thought that was like kind of just shoot it out into the ether, and you're like, well, I hope they liked it.
When we did it for the X, it was like this thing where like we did like a whole set. It was like a live in studio Edge of the X thing. And it was a thing where like they did like ticket giveaways on air. So like random people that we didn't even know like showed up to come see like some band, and it's just us, which is like so fucking weird because like we don't deserve that.
Oh,
you know,
ticket giveaways to
yeah,
your
ticket
performance.
giveaways to like the in studio performance.
Whoa.
So like all these people were going to like this thing, and like we get there and like we're in a room and they have all the stuff set up, but there's like we got to invite some people, so some of our friends were there, and then there was like 15 strangers
But
that
so
I've never seen in my life that just won like ticket giveaways.
They like went to the mall, or it was ticket giveaways
Yeah.
for okay.
yeah, that they, I guess
Call
they just did
in,
on air
be
and stuff
caller
like
3.
that. And that was like, it was just weird. You know, everybody's seated. It's like
I did that one time, and I saw Failure in the studio at the X.
okay, yeah,
But that's like a band I knew and wanted to see.
it was
Not
probably
that
the same room.
yeah. Which you know, like at the Green Tree one.
Yeah,
Yeah, up in there, which is a nice room. But
It was cool, yeah.
I knew that band, you know, and it was just be funny to be like, I'm just gonna go see a band. And they might be good. We'll see.
Yeah, it was really, really.
Were they into it?
Everybody seemed more. Everybody was nice. Everybody was really nice, and I'm like super like thankful for you know the opportunity and everything. It was really cool that it happened, but it was a very surreal
Yeah.
experience. But it was cool to like kind of get like a little bit of a taste of what like people who do this in like an air quote legit thing probably have to do like every other week, if not more. You know, it's just, you know, doing the whole like old school, like play songs on the radio and get people to come out to the show type of thing. Like,
That's exactly what the Failure thing was. There was maybe 15 or 20 of us in there, and then afterwards they shook all our hands, took some pictures with us, and they were like, "Come see them at Mr. Small's tonight," you know. And that was,
yeah, it
just
was cool
just promo. Yeah.
to get a taste of what that's like.
Mhm.
But it was just a very surreal experience. There's not many opportunities, I think, to do stuff like that anymore, especially for like bands that don't fit neatly into any sort of a box
Right.
talking about the, subgenre spaghetti again.
Right.
So if we were to like, go like face first into that spaghetti pile, how can we subgenre rated I to death? What would be like
You got to toss in
the tag.
a noise rock.
Uh-huh.
I think that's in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
No
avant-garde?
no wave, perhaps.
Not true avant-garde.
No.
I wouldn't.
That's a little lofty.
Yeah.
I kind of like using that though, because I think for people who aren't like super into music and like subcultures and subgenres, avant-garde just means anything kind of challenging or, like
Sure. It is like very pretentious to call yourself that though.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to have some squonking saxophone to be considered avant-garde.
Yeah. You
There's
need
some kind of, like,
you need somebody with like
Extra
a
metal percussion thing that
Yeah.
like someone bangs on.
Contact.
is
contact mics.
Slipknot an avant-garde band?
It's in the eye of the beholder.
Wow, yeah. To my grandmother,
No.
yes.
No. No, I just I've seen too many people get pissy around that term, so I just tend to not say it ever.
I say it as a joke, like, but people like I say it sort of straight.
Ooh, I like
Wow.
avant rock. If you really
I'll go with that.
turn people away, but I think that would be more appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've used that before.
Yeah. Well,
What do we say? Like hard rock for weirdos. That's not exactly like a genre, but maybe
Yeah.
it is.
I've
Just trying to wrangle your listenership.
for a long time.
what do you classify a band like Fang?
Punk.
Punk? Is
Yeah.
that punk?
I guess they're punk.
Are the Cows punk?
Sorta.
Hmm.
Yeah. They were very punk.
in their ethos.
But they're considered noise rock now.
Yeah, but I mean,
There's the
noise rock-
spaghetti.
it's-
Yeah.
It's a terrible.
So where does punk
Yeah.
become noise?
think
I don't
that,
know.
like,
I fucking hate the genre. thing.
Yeah, I think that like it feels like the term punk used to be like in like the late 70s, 80s was a blanket for much more just like left of center stuff and not really tied into like a very specific style of music.
Yeah.
And then like I think once punk kind of got corporatized, it became like the
Right.
sort of like
It was like you have to sound like Green Day and that's it.
sure.
And that's what punk is. And so many people were like, "Oh, punk, you mean like Blink 182?"
Yeah, the stratification of punk is insane.
Yeah.
It is very strange.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's like I try to view these sort of like schools of thought or subgenres as more of like philosophies rather than a narrow aesthetic. Because I think like a lot of people say that about punk. They say that about jazz. They say that about anything. It's like for me, I think it's more fun to sort of think of it as like a way of approaching stuff and a philosophy guiding your process rather than like, oh, like it's gotta,
Sure.
sound, it's gotta have this kind of guitar part. or,
Yeah,
you know.
I talk about this all the time, but I've really like given up on like even caring about like what genre of music a band is. I'm just like more interested in what their intention is. Like, why
Well, there's
are you making this? Like, I don't really
Right.
care what it is. It's just like,
Do I like it?
yeah, do I
Yes.
like it? Are, you trying to do something that I don't even care if it's original. Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever. Like, oh, you want to play like you want to be a band now that's doing this like obituary worship music. Cool. Are you good? Are
Right.
you having fun? Fine.
There's only
Yeah,
one
that's cool.
obituary. Why wouldn't you want another one? Like,
Sure.
That's great.
It's just like whatever, fuck it.
I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but I mean, I think punk is just like an attitude. Like I came into music or, doing anything creative through punk at a very young age. And so like, even whenever I went through a Grateful Dead phase, it was still like, had a punk attitude to it. I was more into the Butthole Surfers or like, I don't know, like it, whatever I do, probably like even in my job is probably somehow influenced by punk.
At your job.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah.
Jobs aren't
You're
punk.
doing-
No.
Come on, jobs aren't punk.
Jobs are not punk, but I do it like fucking totally punk.
Down at the Eaton
But when
Beach.
I do it,
I don't know. I'm just whatever that
Do
is.
as
I don't know.
say,
I don't know
not
what
as
this
I
music
do.
is, but it definitely comes from punk.
Yeah, I do agree with the idea that like punk at its core is it can be like a lifestyle and also a type of music, I suppose. But whatever the fuck kind of music you guys are making, I don't care.
Van
It's
Halen
fun.
was very punk.
It's loud.
Exactly. That's
Sure,
the kind of, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking about like from the angle of like Eddie Van Halen, like doing all that like custom guitar shit and just kind of breaking the rules? And
Well, not just that, but I mean, even when they started, they were kind of a hodgepodge band. You know, nobody was really doing quite what they were doing. And then, you know, it's like a lot of people don't even know that
They're sort of closeted admirers of punk.
yeah,
bands,
yeah.
right?
They were like sort of like they would go out to these like jam nights, and they would have a punk set that they would do, and you know they would play their punk songs that were probably never recorded. You know, they knew who Black Flag was, that sort of thing.
well, I think that it's like really fun and like very obvious that like people, you know, I don't feel like you can be like that good of a musician and obviously only listen to like one kind of music,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And like, but it's just people get so put into this like, this bubble of like, oh, like you can only be one thing because you are Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth and things like that. And, you know, as you get older, you like, and you start to experience things. Like I remember when I worked at Blockbuster Video when I was younger.
I heard of
I
that.
mean, it hasn't been around for quite some time. you know?
R.I.P.
So I remember reading a thing in there about like Kirk Hammett and like how, you know, he had a jam band with Jack Johnson and somebody else because they all lived close to each other and they would just like get together and, you know, I was like, really?
Wow.
You know, but I mean, I'm like 17. I'm not thinking about, I haven't had the years of my life yet where I can like understand that yet. Cause for me, it's all like only abrasive music, you know?
Right.
I hadn't gotten to that point where I start to appreciate other things, but also that appreciation didn't really come until I got into like actually making a lot of music. And then it kind of blossomed from there, you know, which was right around that same time.
Just thinking about punk and like the stratification, I kept thinking about D beat. And if there's a point where you're like, man, I really don't want to fucking play D beat anymore, you like have to like shift genres as a band because it's so like expected of you, you know. I don't know. It's like just play what feels good, you know, and have fun and just let the it form around you instead of the other way, like you know, being death metal or being, you know, street punk or you know.
I think that it's interesting now because there's like so much music that exists in the world. Everybody has a fucking band. There's plenty of places to play. I know people will be like, there's nowhere to plenty.
Look, yeah.
And so now it's gotten to the point where I think a lot of younger bands, I think they're making music to like fit into a specific scene that already exists. Whereas you think about like Van Halen in the early days and things like that, I'm sure there were little pockets, but it was a lot more common for for there to be mixed genre shows and things like that, probably because there wasn't as many venues or as many bands or as much connectivity without the internet and stuff like that. So it was a lot more, even when I was like in middle school coming up and going to like, you know, like shows at the fire hall and stuff like that. It was always like, oh, there's like a new metal wannabe band and then like a band that still is doing like grunge stuff. And, you know, it was always a mix.
I wish we had more of that today. I think that would actually help a lot of things.
I think there, you know, some people do it. My band Normal Creatures played a really wild show on Friday with like, the lineup made no sense. You know, like we played with a band called Truck Stop from West Virginia. I don't know if you've heard of, seen these guys yet. But they're,
How apt.
They're very fun and self-aware and good. They're young kids just doing like kind of like cock rock stuff, but like it's very self-aware and it's fun.
We got asked to play a show.
Them and then we
weren't able to do it.
And us doing our like whatever thing. I've been for like our tagline has been music for nobody for a long time. And then Black Signal, who does like synthwave stuff, just like a 2-piece, like all electronic stuff. And then Star Viper, who's like a weirdo mix of like synth and rock and all this stuff. So it was a really cool lineup. And it was a really cool mix of people there too. So I really like that.
Yeah. Any shows that we've played that were like very disparate genres and everything, it end up being very fun shows, because you get to, it's just a showcase. You get to see all kinds of different shit and not just the same thing in a little bit different configuration 4 times or whatever, you know? So.
Yeah. But I mean, there are people I think that do prefer to be a part of those like small bubbles, and they only want to play with bands in those small bubbles at the same venues and things like that. But again, hey, if that's your intention,
that's fine too.
Yeah, have fun with that.
That's as long as I've been playing music, it's never been I've never felt like that was a structure to the shows we've played. Like, they've always been varied bills. Like Manny Thiner would do that. Most of his shows like would be, bands across the board, and it was great.
Yeah, it rarely doesn't work because one of the bands is a genre that the crowd doesn't like. I in my experience, like, people are just down to have fun.
Yeah,
right.
I think it really comes down to whoever's booking the show. I think just needs to be this is like going to sound very like young and hip, but a curator of vibes, right? And I guess what that means is just like, hey, the people in this band are okay. I get along with them. I don't mind being in a room with them, and by proxy, their fan base or their family or friends, whatever,
who they attract,
they're probably okay too.
Right.
So this could be a cool environment. The vibes are curated okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Versus some bands that, like, there's bands that have been good bands that I'm like, those dudes rip, but they're a mess. And like, I don't want to be around them. I don't want to play a show. I'll go to a show.
That's a deal breaker.
And like, it
most
just kind of sucks. I mean, like, when I was younger, it was a little bit different, but now, like, I don't really have the patience for it.
Yeah, the spectrum of like, man, he's crazy, to eventually like, man, he's fucking insufferable.
Yeah. 100%.
No thanks.
Yeah. With Rated I, and now, you play pretty frequently. I see your name on flyers popping up here and there. And
this year we have.
Sometimes you're, hosting people from out of town. I also get wires crossed with Roman's bands sometimes, because you have several different things that you're doing.
Right.
And, but anyways, with Rated I, you having fun playing shows? How's your experience in the local music scene, John?
It's fine.
No expectations.
You have a very I don't know the right word for it. We'll go with like stoic approach.
I wouldn't have it any other way, really.
Yeah.
I mean, like whatever happens. I enjoy myself. It might not look like it.
No, I've always found you to be refreshingly pleasant to be around. But it is cool just how like relaxed you are. But you've been doing this shit for a very long time.
Yeah.
My question, and I apologize if maybe I've asked you this before, because you've been on the mic before with me. And have you always been this like chill, or were you a little bit more like high strung in your younger years?
Oh, I was a mess.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a mess.
Yeah.
Hothead occasionally.
Yeah.
No comment.
I will say, in the time
As the person that's known him the longest.
right. And I was going to say, just in playing in bands with John since 2013, I think is when Night Vapor started, to now, it's been so refreshing to see your demeanor just get ever cooler and more just like go with the flow, and everything's okay.
Well, I'm
And
glad this turned into
Absolutely.
talk of my mental health.
hey, we've got nothing
I
but
just came
glowing
from my rehearsal
reviews.
this morning.
But yeah, I don't. get to take away from the spotlight from John's mental health. My mental health of playing in shows in the local music scene, it's always so fun for me, at least. I love performing. It's so cathartic. And even if there's just a handful of people, or if there's a ton of people, like you just give them the same show and have as much fun as possible. And it comes back. And
there's something about like a smaller show that is always kind of a fun challenge in a way, because they're a lot harder, at least for me, being like the idiot with the microphone, which maybe you can relate with.
Also the idiot
where
with the
it's kind of like, okay, well, if there's like a big crowd of people, there's a lot more distractions, and sometimes it's easier to kind of fuck off. But if it's a small crowd of people, it's like, okay, really got to do a good job. And also, like, the people that did come really want to be here, or they got dragged here and they can't wait to leave. So you got to make it as good as you possibly can for both of those people.
I've always said, like, since starting being the idiot with the microphone over long ago, never ever punish the people who did come to the show for the people who didn't come to the show.
Oh, sure.
You know, if there's 5 people there, they left their house and came to your show, and you should give them the show that they came out for. And
that's, incredibly mature perspective, having empathy for,
because I've been at so many of those shows too. And I'm like, it sucks. You can feel when a band is like annoyed that the show didn't get the turnout that they it makes you want to leave, Sure. But if they are like, well, here we go, I don't care who's here, you're gonna fucking let it rip and have a good time, you're gonna have a good time no matter who's there. So I find that sometimes it could be a bit of a bummer, like if it's a show that you're promoting and maybe you have some friends from out of town and you're trying to hey, want to make it good, but you kind of have to be real with them sometimes, where it's, especially when people hit me up to come to a show in Pittsburgh on like a Wednesday. And it's like, what do you want me to do? Temper your expectations.
It's like, we can book a show, but like, I mean, if you're coming through town anyways, do you want to just like hang out at my house and chill? It might be more of like there may be more of a net positive in like not playing the show rather than committing all day to the show.
Right.
But
it's nice to get a practice in.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah. Practice outside of your practice space is always welcome.
If you're not playing, you're paying. But sometimes if you're playing, you're still paying.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, it can depend on the circumstances of like the venue and what kind of situation you have regarding what does the venue want or expect from you.
You know what I love is when we had this at 123 Pleasant Street in Morgantown, when we played there, we had like no one there. But there was like a side room where a bunch of people were kind of at a bar and they could kind of see us. So I was going extra hard because I wanted to like turn the heads. I wanted to kind of like make people like
draw them.
Like, I wanted to at least annoy them or like raise an eyebrow by like our antics on stage. So actually that show was really fun for me because that's like a really big stage. You can like move around and do all your kicks and jumps and stuff.
Oh wow!
And we
kicks and the jumps.
Yeah,
he's got them.
I felt like that show, we had like a really good set that almost no one saw because I was like so intent. There's even this little, like, I don't know if you've probably played one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
On the stage left, there's like a little square box, like a trap door. And there were like a couple people hanging out in that opposite room too, because it's kind of like 3 rooms adjacent with walls. But there's this little hole in the wall that I like stuck my head out of a couple times. I don't know. There's something fun about that stage and just kind of like being a goof on that stage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, you already said it. The best thing to do is just like, have fun on the stage, play the best show that you can. And don't put out like any sort of shitty energy because it's definitely not going to help the situation.
No. And I've become like I'm thinking of one show in particular where the band was so good and it was a Tuesday night at Brillo Box and it was totally dead. But I became like a fan for life. Like I bought all their records. So I think about that too. I'm like, there could be like, you could be playing to like a couple people who like are just going to love what you do and like continue to follow you.
Yeah.
And that's like a huge
turn other people on.
Yeah.
And also just as like I don't want to say a money-making standpoint, but if you're on the road, you need money to keep being on the road. And if you know you're not going to get a lot of door money, if you give them a good enough show, there's a good chance they're going to buy your record, they're going to buy a shirt,
Yeah.
you know, and put gas in your tank.
Absolutely. I have a story that I'm going to share. I've been like kind of really chomping at the bit to tell this story on the podcast. And I haven't had the opportunity, but
Breaking.
it really relates with what we're talking about. And this happened recently. So, this is a bit of a horror story. And I'm not going to, out of respect for the people involved, I'm not going to say any names or venue names.
Right on.
This is a bit of a shitty situation, but
this guy at this place.
so Gray Walker has this show, and it's us. It's us playing with another band that's touring. So 2 touring bands and then a local band. Okay. This other band that's touring, we're not touring with them. We just happen to be on the same show. So 2 out of town bands and a local band and a venue. That's it. This is the type of venue where there's like a downstairs stage and an upstairs stage. Right.
All right.
So they have sometimes they have 2 different shows going on. Sometimes they don't.
Right.
So it just so happens on this particular night, it's a Thursday night. The upstairs has a show, a big show, a show with over 400 pre-sales for it.
Whoa.
Big show. And the owner is like, hey, like, you know, I don't know how many people you're expecting, but we were thinking if we start your show downstairs late and we offset it, we could just let people who paid to come upstairs just down to your show and they could watch the bands. And I'm like, fuck yes.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. Pat it up.
Because people might buy a t-shirt or a record or something. Definitely.
Right.
Even just having some bodies in the room would be good.
It's fun.
And the other touring band, the ones that they technically booked the show, they're like, no. If somebody wants to come down here, they got to pay $15.
Cool.
And there's more to this story that's like hysterical, but for the sake of brevity, I'll just cut it at that because that was the point.
Bad move.
Yeah, but it was just like very like...
Did fists fly? Because they should have.
Not because of that, but it did pretty much get to that point. I mean, fuck it, we'll finish the story. So, I mean, long story short,
Carved
actually,
messages
this
in the
long story
bananas.
long, this fucking band. So we figure out the set order where it's going to be us opening up, then the other touring band, and then the local band's going to play last.
Sure.
Okay. The local band's not even there yet. And the sound guy's like, I know these guys, they're going to show up an hour before they play anyway. So that's fine. So, okay, we'll start getting our stuff on stage. We're playing first. The other touring band's like, oh, well, we want to do a sound check.
Stop.
Okay. In this basement, it's a room that's not much bigger than this.
Right.
They want to set everything up in sound check. So they start setting up. Everything is digital. Every single drum is triggered. Guitar, bass, everything digital running through tracks. They don't know how to work any of it.
Oh no.
So it takes them like 45 minutes to get through this sound check. So they want to set all this stuff up to tear it down and have to try to set it up again, even if they don't know how anything works.
In a place like that, you can't like backline. It's not.
And the sound, you tell the sound dude's getting annoyed, and we're like, whatever, we could set up in 10 minutes. It's not a big deal. We're just there.
I have already figured out which venue this is. And if I do some sleuthing, I can figure out who these bad bands are.
These fucks.
After the recording.
Yeah.
So
off the record.
all right. So they finally get their sound check done, and that's fine. Whatever.
You can call in if you'd like to venture a guess.
we start setting up our shit. Okay, and it's at this point, I don't know, 20 minutes till doors. Not a big deal. We could set up. It's fine. We don't need to do a sound check. We'll just turn it on and go. We're getting all set up. Joey's halfway through building his kit. Sound guy comes up on stage, starts, putting the kick drum mic up and all that stuff. And Joey, being a friendly guy, is like, how you doing, man? And the sound guy's like, I'm really just about to just quit this job.
Oh no.
And he was very frustrated by everything that had been going on. The local band shows up and they're like, hey, we have a medical emergency, so we have to play first. like 15 minutes before doors.
Did they have a
They
doctor's
haven't
excuse?
carried a single piece of equipment in,
Did they have a doctor's excuse?
and they're like, "We want to play first." Like, and the sound guy was just like,
emergency?
"Fuck you guys, fuck this place, I quit."
Oh,
Grabbed his shit and left. That never happened to me at a show before.
No.
And then, like, you know,
What happens
because of
when the
that,
sound
because that
man
huge
quits?
show upstairs, there was nobody to come work the show downstairs.
Sure.
And the band that didn't even know how their gear worked is all like, well, you know, I know how to run a soundboard. Can I run sound? And there's like, no fucking way. Can't do this, you know? And like, ultimately, like, owner of the venues, I mean, what the fuck's he going to do?
Right.
He's like, look, I'm going to give all you guys $100. You can eat and drink for free all night, but the show can't happen.
That's
You can watch the bands upstairs, but you're not playing. And we're like, fine,
Yeah.
okay. It sucks that we loaded all of our gear down here, but
Pretty good deal.
yeah, it
for
could have
you
been
guys,
nothing.
Yeah.
It could have been nothing. You know,
Sure.
sure, we could have sold some t-shirts. That would have been great, but whatever. You know, free food, see some cool bands, get some drinks. I mean, I don't drink, but you know, get some.
And that was
Whatever.
that
And
was
it was
the
like-
domino effect that started from that pushback in the beginning. Like
Yeah, and
none of that, like you would have all been manageable if you didn't push that sound guy's buttons like that. Like, and also fuck yourself over by not having a room full of people.
sure.
God, I hated that story.
Yeah, it was really hysterical. And we were just kind of like in the middle of it. And afterwards, because all of the bands got this deal, that the local band that you know, showed up late and wanted to play first, you know, they're there the whole night getting the free drinks, and they're like, I'm so sorry about that, guys. We love you guys, blah blah blah. And like, they're being nice, but it's also like, bro, just shut the fuck up and let us eat this
Yeah.
fucking food. And like, you know, I get it. You know, shit happens. It's really the sound person's fault for being like, hey, like, gonna leave.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have done that. Like, you know, you can also just like
Yeah.
temper, but I get it. I've been there. You know what I mean? I've walked off stage during a show. I walked off. My band was playing at the Smiling Moose, not Grey Walker, and I got so pissed off during our set that I just left in the middle of the show. Just left the Smiling Moose, walked down the street, and didn't come back for like 45 minutes.
I might have done that, but it was just for theatrical.
Yeah, no,
effect.
it was me being a fucking mess.
Yeah.
I've done that.
But it was just like, so I mean, like, I get it. Like, in like, if that, wherever that, I'm sure whatever that that person probably had some other stuff
Yeah.
going on outside of
Right, man.
this
Yeah.
situation. It's all a domino effect thing. And like, I feel bad for everybody involved, which is why I don't want to be like, oh, fuck this asshole, fuck them,
Yeah.
fuck that, and all that
They're
stuff.
fighting a battle you can't see.
Right.
But hysterical situation though.
That's
Just
a
it was
mess.
very
Oh
a
my
very
God.
unique situation.
Phew.
Actually, I don't feel bad for that touring.
I was
band.
gonna say, yeah, maybe not.
I don't feel
Maybe
bad
not
for
them. Yeah,
I feel bad that they drove. I mean, they were in like, you know, but you could tell
But
that
they
it was
still-
kind of their first rodeo.
And they made some bad
They-
decisions.
And,
They also made
they will-
$100.
They will learn. Yes, yes. So shout outs to them.
Yeah. Well, I feel honored that you dished
Yeah.
on our segment.
Anonymous.
You heard it
Hey,
here
it just,
first.
it's, you know, it
It's
just,
kind of rad.
it just,
Yeah,
it
I
had
love
you, is very, it's just that story's been out there now because, it's people like know. This is the other thing. God, sorry. Our bass player, in Grey Walker, love Jonathan to death, but we're at the show and he's like, this crazy thing just happened at the venue, and told the whole fucking story and like tagged the venue and did all of this stuff that was very like,
Oh no.
like
So, like, there's
the social awareness of this was like very low. And I was just kind of like, well, he's not like, he's telling you, I mean, it happened.
Right.
Put
But
another
you could-
log on the fire.
Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, being in a band is fun. It's nice to
Mhm.
still have been doing this for all of these years, and still
Yeah,
when you think you've seen it all, there's another new thing to add to the bingo card.
for sure.
You know, that was a new experience for us for sure.
Didn't even happen.
Yeah.
Oh.
You got any let's instill some positivity into the conversation that's related to Rated I.
Yeah.
You know, you've been playing shows here in the city. You've been releasing some music, put out a record.
Yeah.
You had a pretty cool release show, some cool bands.
Mhm.
You finding yourselves like in a pocket here in the scene that works for you guys? Because what I see, like when I see like, I know that Grey Walker played with you, and I see like your record release lineup, and I feel like you're kind of doing that thing that we were talking about in terms of like mixed genre-ish shows, or just like it's all loud guitar music type shows.
Well, we don't fit in anywhere. Really.
That's kind of
like we kind of have like there's no we wouldn't be able to play with anyone because we that's just kind of like how we sound. I think it's very perceptual to like an audience member, like depending on what they're into. It's like we're either gonna, or what bands are on the bill, we're either gonna sound like Steely Dan to them, or we're gonna sound like the most crazy heavy thing ever that they've ever heard, depending on like what bill, who the people are. I'm always kind of like entertained by that because I think we're kind of eclectic. I think we're kind of like rock and roll. I think we're kind of like, like we're all these things that like the way that I perceive our sound and our concept and our philosophy is like often very different than how the feedback we get. But that's also cool because it's just,
I mean,
how you interpret things.
Yeah. People have to like process it through like the filter that they have installed.
Yeah.
Like how many times, like for the longest time, with Normal Creatures, we would play a show and people would be like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, you remember Rage Against the Machine? And I'm like, okay, like it used to piss me off, but now it's like, well, this is like your filter is like, you listen to the X driving back and forth from work every day, probably bringing up radio again. And that's like what you perceive what we're doing.
That is one of my favorite things, being in Night Vapor before this, which was kind of this amorphous genre being, then going to this, which has a little bit tighter, less amorphous, but still kind of, here and there. After we play, you're like, who you guys sound like? And I'm like, please tell me. I need to know what's going through your head.
We've got Rage before too.
Yeah.
I used to kind of hate that, but now it's part of the reason I do this.
Yeah,
because that's the payoff. There's really not much else in it. So that's my payoff.
Totally. Yeah. Now we've matured from Rage Against the Machine and Limp Bizkit to now people give us a lot. We get Faith No More a lot now, which is like I guess I'll take it over Limp Bizkit.
The reviews of the album, just like every time, it's like they're gonna list a couple of bands, and who fucking knows what's gonna come out, and what are some of the Doug said I sounded like Tarman from Return of the Living Dead.
That was like the most non-review
that review.
I like that because it's not a band.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Outside.
No, I'll take that any day.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
it's great.
That's better than.
Those are my favorites. Whenever someone
Insults.
can reference something that really has nothing to do with someone else's music,
right? Or, I mean, what I came to appreciate was in reviews, again, with Night Vapor and Rated I, of people listing those bands, but not saying they sound like a copy of this band. They're like, no, I just get this vibe from their music.
Sure.
And, it's not like they're a total, like, I don't know, Killdozer ripoff or whatever. It's not that. It's just like, this is what I hear when I'm listening to this, because I need to, especially as a reviewer, like grab at things that people, touchstones that you could, if you hadn't heard the album yet, you'd be like, okay, I guess I kind of see what this is going to sound like, and then see for yourself. But
yeah, whenever we played on Friday, like somebody came up to me after the set and was like, hey man, that was really cool. He's like, do you like Faith No More at all? And I was like, yeah, I love Faith No More. He's like, Faith No More is my favorite band. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
See,
I'm glad that like you liked this and you processed it in some way that was positive for you.
Love that.
Like I never intended for us to like sound like that, but like processing it, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I see that. And like, that's part of my like musical DNA. I grew up with that. So there's a bit of that in there for sure.
Yeah, and it's him saying like, you guys know Faith No More, like kind of, and not like, you guys like Faith No More, don't you? You know, like, got it. Like,
Yeah. There was one from a long time ago that stuck with me, and after a show, this different band, of course, someone came up to me and said, "Oh my God, you guys were so great. You sound exactly like the band Shellac." And I was like, oh, well, back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Nothing against Shellac, but it was just like, it's not that I didn't want to sound like anybody else.
Was it Microwave show?
Yeah.
Which, if you've heard Microwaves, doesn't like
It doesn't
really
really
sound like
sound-
shellac.
But again, that's,
But
I
you
think,
get the,
I think that is like, that again, that's somebody like processing it like in their own way.
Exactly.
Right.
Whereas like I imagine when, you were doing like the Night Vapor stuff, like I'm sure one person was probably like, you guys sound like daughters.
yeah,
I'm
stuff
sure
like that.
you would
Yeah.
get stuff like
Yeah.
that. Or
If
like
it-
the birthday party or something
Right.
like that, right?
Oxbow.
Whatever
Yeah.
it is, if it's someone you don't know telling you something, like they're like giving you praise for what you're doing, or like liking it, or communicating with you, or trying to interact with you, whatever they say, whatever, it doesn't
We
matter.
just want people to talk to
Yes,
us.
that's the thing.
Just
Is
talk
like,
to us, please.
yeah, it's like nobody has ever
Any and all
like
feedback.
Punish me.
nobody's ever like coming at you with like these like middle fingers, like
Yeah.
fuck you. Like
Fuck
they're
you.
just trying to like
Yeah.
have like a human connection and reach out and just say like, hey, like I like this in the
Teenage
way that
Jesus
like
in the jerks much?
Yeah.
yeah, in the way that they know how to say it.
You
And
guys
it's
sound like the birthday party. I hate the birthday party.
yeah. Right now, like, being a band still, you've been in other bands throughout the years and you're continuing to still do this. Was it fun going through the process of coming up with a band name again?
No.
Was that strenuous?
I have
How did that go?
I have a ticket for the first show that we played on my refrigerator that says Neck and Neck, because that's what we thought our band was going to be called.
But then
Yeah.
there was an Irish shanty band.
Yeah,
or
something.
There were like
Like sea
multiple
shanty.
bands
Yeah.
neck
Yeah,
and neck
there's-
that came up like a couple months after we picked that.
We
Yeah.
thought we did our research, but
Yeah.
And they were
we
all
didn't.
pretty bad, like Americana thing. Plus, there's a Mark Knopfler, Chet Atkins duo record called Neck and Neck, which
That sounds interesting.
We'll see, because they each have
they have guitar necks.
guitar necks.
Yeah.
But no, it is pretty agonizing. You're like, unless you put no thought into it, you're like, just like throw out a band that you don't care is the name of another band. But
Yeah.
like
If it
trying
was just one person, it'd be so much fun. But you have to agree on it.
that too.
It's like,
Yeah.
I imagine, I don't have any tattoos, but I imagine it's like a tattoo. Like the best tattoos are either like total impulse, you just get it and you don't think about it, or like you really meditate on the design and like think it through. I don't know.
Sure.
That's a good point.
That's
Yeah.
a fair
Some of
analogy.
you have tattoos.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It sticks.
Branding.
It sticks though.
And it
It's like,
sticks.
Once,
Yeah,
once
like-
it's there, it's like it's
Yeah,
there.
you might want to call your band Fuckface and think that's great, and you just go and do it because there's no one else involved.
And then you don't get asked to play the DV morning show.
Well, maybe that's not what your goals are.
Mhm.
Here we go from Pittsburgh. It's F Face.
I feel like the
That's gotta
fuck
be
yeah
taken.
dinosaurs guys managed to still get some okay opportunities.
Mileage. Yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
It's not holding them back.
They did something recently
True.
that surprised. Or they're playing at the Carnegie Museum.
I think they already did.
Wait,
Or
who's
that-
this?
Fuck yeah, dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they're doing something like at the museum
Yeah.
with like so-
Crazy.
I mean, it's cool.
So fun.
Because of the dinosaur connection.
Yes.
Hey.
So
It-
so you can have like a swear word as long as it's like also next to something that is like
Yeah,
accessible.
and being able to say like F yeah, like it's you can gloss over it easy and
Mhm.
just but that is a very it's impressive that they've been able to, because they've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Doing great. Mm.
Yeah.
in spite of the F word.
As long as there's money to be made, they'll find a way.
Who?
The powers that be.
The proverbial they.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
We got to get in on that.
Yeah.
I know that
Money?
Yeah.
How's that happen?
I don't know.
with
This?
with Grey Walker, they put out an EP before I was in the band, before Jonathan was in the band, before Colt was in the band. It was like basically a completely different band.
Wow.
They put out an EP, played a couple shows, and then it fell dormant for like almost 2 years. And then like a bunch of people got together, started doing some stuff again, never played any of those songs. And then I came in and it was pretty much everybody was just like, we don't feel like thinking of another name. We're just going to still do it as Grey Walker. And now the band's been a band much longer than it was at that time. But it was funny because in that moment, we were all very much like,
It works.
Tying it in, one of the band names that was suggested, I remember, was Daywalker.
oh,
Ooh.
No, you're right.
we
In our-
played
in our
with a
group
band
chat.
called Daywalker.
And
recently.
you shut it
Grey Walker
down
and Daywalker.
because
Yeah.
Grey Walker.
Yeah, and I was like, well, we're from. It'd be different if we were from a different city. at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a band from West Virginia called
It's
Daywalker
just
that we played
too
with
close to home.
Yeah.
in Ohio.
It wouldn't have passed the muster.
And we ended up just using a song title from the Last Night Vapor album. So, and two words that nobody would think to put together. So it's got the originality. It's kind of hard to say, but it looks great on a poster. Rated I.
Yeah, I like it. I don't have any
Good story.
comments. I mean, I would really, really like this. So this is going to be the submissions part of my podcast. It doesn't exist, but now it does, where I'm going to ask the bands to submit your most interesting coming up with a band name story to win a prize. A $5 gift card to In Stuff Music.
$5?
Yes, $5.
Some Tortex.
If you have the
What
most
could,
inter-
you, what could you get for $5
You
there?
can maybe get
$5 off of an album.
No. And,
Oh, what?
It's like
In
a guitar
stuff, right
store.
down the street from
Oh, I don't play
Yeah.
instruments, so I don't know. I bought my microphone off
Reverbers
Amazon.
and
You can get like
walnuts.
Oh yeah, and
you can
stuff.
get,
oh
like, inches
pianos and
of-
stuff. That's
Yeah.
okay.
a good microphone cable.
maybe
Yeah.
like a guitar pick or two.
Yeah, there might you might be able to afford some picks.
A drumstick.
Like the little tiny.
I
little
imagine
pack.
drumsticks are pretty expensive.
you can't even get a drumstick
Really?
for. Well, I mean, I guess you could,
It's been a
but
while.
you might not want to use it.
Yeah, Vicks are
Yeah.
what, like $17?
I don't know. I don't use those. Too much for
Well, if we win it, we'll put it to good use
All right.
somehow.
Yeah. With
There's not really any story for our band coming up with a band name. It's just us like
I don't think anybody has a story.
I know.
we just spam. It was like us spamming the group text with all of our stupid ideas.
Yeah.
I think
For
like
months.
40 years ago, that used to be more of a common thing. It's like, well, we recall this because we went through this situation. And then whenever, we kicked Billy out, we were no longer Billy and the Bats. We were just the Bats, and that's how we came to be.
Yeah. And there was more pickings. And even if you thought of like a cool band name, you didn't have like an internet search engine to help realize that 1,000 other people all over the world have already
Right.
taken that name.
It was just a
Right,
race
right.
to see who could put the record out.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
get popular enough that you staked that claim. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking, I mean, we should probably trademark Rated I because John and I were in that band in 1985 that
Oh yeah.
just recently we found out through social media that there's a 1980s cover band that have trademarked the name The 1985,
Yeah.
which is like, that just rolls off the tongue, right? The search engine optimization is right there. It's such a great name.
Yeah, John had words in the comments section.
Yeah.
With the band leader. I saw that.
They were so
Saw the
pleased with
words.
themselves that they trademarked that name, which is fine. Like they can have it, whatever. But it's something you just don't expect, But
It's
Time.
fine.
Yeah.
time will tell you. Yeah,
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's what is a name really? It's just like it's a device that our that our simple brains need
Yeah.
just to put a marker on a specific thing.
Sure.
Like, oh, like that is
It's a pin drop.
rated
one.
I, and that is just a reference point to make me think of, the avant-garde noise rock band from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, rated I.
Yes. Yes.
So it's like it doesn't matter to me anymore. But it's also kind of annoying where I've seen a lot of like the younger people that are like intentionally misspelling things or putting weird symbols in their band names and doing all this. I don't know if you've come across any of that stuff, but it's like
Yeah,
a little
I haven't seen
obnoxious.
there's a zombie from Pittsburgh, Zombi.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's a zombie from somewhere else, Zombii.
Oh, I didn't know where that was going.
Do they
Two
play
eyes.
horror music too?
No fucking joke.
Wow.
No, they play pop punk.
It'd be better if
Hmm.
it was BY.
That's fine.
You.
There's
don't like that.
actually one of those as well. Don't fuck around.
Zomby.
There's one with
BYY.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I was DJing an event in Dayton, Ohio, and this guy comes up to me after the show. And he's like, "Hey man, like that was a lot of fun. That was really cool. Like the production, all this stuff." He's like, "My band plays here sometimes. Blah 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 blah." We're just shooting the shit and talking about stuff. And I was like, yeah, like, I don't do this stuff with my band, only with the DJ stuff. He's like, "Oh, cool. You play in a band? What's the name of your band?" And I was like, "Gray Walker." And he was like, "Oh, there's a lot of bands with Gray in the name nowadays." It was like the first thing he said to me.
Cool.
And I was like, "Oh, cool." I was like, yeah, we've been a band. He's like, "We've been a band for a while," and stuff like that. Like, the name's been around for a while. I was like, what's the name of your band, man? And he was like, "Oh, I play in a band called Hawthorne Heights." I was like, "Oh, okay." So it's the drummer of Hawthorne Heights. Very nice guy.
LOL.
But
Oh, really? That's
yeah.
busting your balls.
Yeah. But I mean, it was just funny, like where it was like that instant, like there's a lot of bands with Gray in the name. And I was like, you're not wrong,
Yeah.
actually. You're really not wrong.
Man, you really fucked up naming your band.
Yeah. Sometimes I
Sucks.
think about that. I think about like, there's like whenever the last time we put out like an actual album and really tried to do the getting reviews thing and stuff like that, I've like wondered if like a lot of these emails have even been opened or anything, just because our name is so like, I feel like it's really easy to gloss over it. Like there's something kind of interesting about the name Rated I, or something that's more like in line with what Gray Walker might be if we had like some name that sounded maybe a little bit more tough or edgy or something. I feel like it's, me personally, I like that it's not like, Dog Cunt or something like that, but which is objectively a really good name for a band.
That's
But
Dog cunt.
I'm probably taken.
yeah, probably taken. Yeah,
There's still time. We have.
but if it is, I'll be Dog Cunt with two
Two
T's.
T's.
To follow it up.
two ends.
Oh
Ooh.
yes,
Oh yeah.
yeah, that would
There
be
you
good too. But
That's interesting. You
I
say
just-
that about Grey Walker.
but I mean, also, I have this issue where I like overanalyze a lot of things, and so maybe it's just a matter that people did open the email, maybe they just didn't find the music interesting, or it wasn't something for them, because you figure for a lot of these like bigger websites, they need to put out stuff that's going to generate clicks for them to get their ad revenue. That's the whole reason.
Right.
There are some people I imagine that work for these places that are doing it out of the goodness of their heart, much like the people at DVE that want to invite Rated I to come play in the morning. There are people that do care and do pay attention. But I think a lot of these people that work for these places are just like, I need to get, it's like, they're all like freelance contract writers. And the only way they keep their job is if they do stories that get ad revenue for the fucking company, the Metal Injection or Metal Sucks or Lamb Goat or whatever. So
It seems like that community
There's-
too. It's a lot of just like you have to know the right person.
Yeah,
like
there's that too.
Your PR guy has to have like a connection at a particular publication.
yeah, and it's just a lot of like,
I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's a shit ton of bands out there.
oh yeah, there's that too.
There's
There's that too. Like my fucking,
they need a filter.
because of this podcast and for whatever reason, my email gets put onto a lot of weird PR stuff for people that are just trying to get press coverage for albums. That's not
Right.
what I do. But I get press kits all the time where it's like new album. I got a press kit for like Slash's new album before it came out.
Is he coming on the show?
No, he's not.
Damn.
You know, but the
Well,
whole
then
thing.
fuck him.
But the amount of emails that I get just being me,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine what like
Yeah,
you know
a
like the like
larger
what like the
publication.
inbox at like one of those big like things looks like.
Ugh,
Does anybody want a beverage?
I'm good.
I'm set.
No thanks.
Knock your socks off. But yeah, so I
Actually, is that one of the orange ones? In
yes.
there? Oh yeah, those
Ooh.
ones are good. And I'm almost out.
Yeah.
Damn.
I like the orange ones. They taste like Flintstones
Yeah, regular
vitamins.
water
Yeah.
on the bottom. Thank you. See? Came around. Thank you.
Little water break. Little beverage break.
Wet
But,
whistle.
Thank you, bartender.
That's all I really have to say about the
Were you doing your own PR in that story
Miller.
you just told? Like sending stuff out?
So in that particular reference, yeah, it was a hodgepodge of stuff. I had hired somebody to help us kind of on a smaller scale, and I was still trying to do some stuff myself outside of that. And I also, through some friends of friends, got on a couple calls with like some like, pardon my language, but like big dick swinging type stuff just to see what this would be like. People that were telling me like, oh, like, yeah, we could do like a radio campaign, but it's gonna, you know, you're talking
You
like
already
you're talking
said
like
dog cunt.
Yeah.
yeah, you're talking like, I mean, like, you know, I talked to people that were just like, hey, like to get this thing started, it's going to be like 10, 15 grand. But like, it was just like what,
Yeah.
but the thing is like for people like on like a like the DIY underground level, it's like the most that you're getting is like articles that you could share that make it look like people were talking about your stuff, which is cool. But in the mid, there's like nothing that exists. And then it goes up to like that, like, oh, you're paying, you know,
Rolling Stone.
4 figures for like these ridiculous campaigns that are probably going to do maybe just about as much as the DIY stuff does. It just looks better from the outside looking in, unless you have like an actual story to sell. And I think at the end of the day, there was just no real story of our record. We're just like 5 normal guys that put out another melodic death metal album. What's there really to say about that? I think we're a pretty fucking good live band, but other than that, like I really can't say much for like that's not me trying to like down talk my band, but it is what it is. Like we're good at what we do, but there's a lot of people that are good at what we do.
You have like a breakup you could talk about?
Like a
Stories of heartbreak, or
You could kill somebody.
Yeah.
yeah, that would be good, and then put them on the album cover.
There you go.
That
Jail
works.
time.
Get
Yeah.
an ear on a
Yeah,
necklace.
it's just like I mean, but it is what it is. Again, there's a lot of fucking bands.
beef.
You know, and like for me, it's just I kind of fell into this thing where it's like I think the best thing that we can do for Grey Walker, because we're not gonna be like that viral band that has like a silly fucking thing that happens on social media or something like that. It's like the best thing we can do is just play as many shows as we can and play them fucking well and just keep playing shows. I mean, we always sell shirts and records and things like that. And I know people like what we do, but just getting a stranger to open an email is really hard.
Yeah.
I think you just need to like see us play to give a shit.
Yeah, touring, getting out there, having you know like the right person see you at the right show or whatever. That's you know I think how a lot of stories go, and that is because there's so many bands. That's increasingly hard to do or
Yeah.
to have happen at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I will say there's not, at least in like this is going to be me talking a little bit of smack.
Again?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. It's like I have a podcast or something. I think in like the subsect of like heavy metal where Grey Walker exists,
Mhm.
I will say I don't think there's very many bands that aren't playing to like backtracks and doing all of this like fancy new age stuff, which I could talk shit on because I also play in a band that does all that stuff. But for Grey Walker, I feel like we tend to kind of stick out because like we're just fucking doing it. And I think that resonates with a lot of people, which is cool to see. Like we play a lot of shows where I feel like sometimes like we're like the only like live band, which sounds like really like ignorant to say, but it feels like that sometimes.
So you're saying that's like a trend in like the particular arena of heavy music that
For
you
sure.
guys play in is like a lot of backing tracks.
For sure.
Triggers. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that stuff's cool if you're on like a big scale, like you're playing like stage AE type shows and stuff
Sure.
like that. Sure, go for it. I get it.
What's
You know,
in the
Play to a
tracks
click
is-
track so you can have like keyboards on one song.
yeah, like all
Yeah.
that production stuff I think is really cool. And again, you know, I play in a band that does all that stuff, but it's like, I mean, we're like, you know, we're Dollar Tree Faith No More, so, and we don't have a key player, so, you know, we have to do some backtrack stuff. But for Greywalker, I don't know. We don't play with too many bands anymore that aren't doing some form of tracks, which is like cool, but I mean, nobody knows how to like run the shit, so there's always some weird tech issue in the middle
Yeah.
of their set. It's just like, God.
to
like,
that point, I've always kind of with my vocal performances, especially live, I've always opted to just say no reverb, dry production, like it's just me. And I listen to other bands that might be genre adjacent. I'm like, man, there's a lot of vocal effects happening in these bands, and I have to like resist that. Because I mean, as a vocalist, it makes me think like, well, that's, you know, kind of a crutch or whatever. You don't have to like do as much because there's all that extra, you know, stuff happening. But you know, to each their own. And it also just like challenges me to use my voice in the best that I can and not like just do like blown out, like sounding like a megaphone shit, even if I kind of want to. But
yeah.
I don't know.
Follow your heart.
That's it, really. And challenge yourself, and instead of, you know, like being that live band, you know, like there's so many other things you can do to like make it easier for you, but at what cost, you know, like, and you want to, I feel like the audiences really appreciate that, you know, of like, oh wow, there's no like, they don't have any extra shit. Like this is a live band and we are watching this all happen like very tightly.
Sometimes it's just too fucking much, or sometimes it's like, it's weird. It's like too much in one avenue and then not enough in others. And what I mean by that, with like a lot of like the digital stuff, I think it works for some bands and some genres. But if you're like if you're like a heavy band and you're playing like these DIY rooms that have like PAs that are subpar at best, and you're relying on this PA to push all of your sound, and it's like, okay, why does this sound like nothing is happening? Like I've seen bands that have the fucking, you know, their guitar rig costs more than like the entire venue's like sound system, right?
Well, not
And
to mention like you don't get to sound check. a lot.
Yeah, and
It's,
it's just
shows
like
with
you
5
can't even hear
bands,
what's going
4
on,
bands.
and you're a
Right.
loud guitar band, and I can't hear the guitars.
Yeah.
That's the thing that annoys me the most about it. Is just like, you can do that shit if you know what you're doing, but also do it still if you bring a fucking cab on stage. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's a big difference that you can like feel in like loud rock music, where if it's just like everything's coming through those PA speakers, it's just like
I like
it just
to-
sounds like very it's like I want to say castrated, but that feels a little dramatic.
How about false?
Sure.
But I was going to say genres that necessitate, that like need or rely on those effects. Like if I'm seeing like a brutal fucking slam band, I want abrasive click, like triggers on the kick drum.
Oh,
like,
sure.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's where I can, it's appropriate. And
Yeah, I think that it kind of I think we're talking about cooking a bit here, right? And the metaphor I'm making is like, you know, there's certain recipes that call for certain ingredients. Like I open up the cookbook to the tech death chapter, right? And it's like, okay, like, yes, like triggered click drum, you know, all of this stuff is in there.
Mhm.
But I think for some people that are maybe just like a little ignorant or younger or a mix of both, they're trying to like cook a different recipe in that book, but with ingredients for a different recipe.
Right.
You know? And like, it's like, if just because like, I think that everybody has this like, I want to be professional. I want to do things the way that the big dogs do things.
Right, and that's how like people get into gear and like, overthinking the gear stuff.
And it's just like it's
spending
not
way too much money.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've been in a band that with Moral Creatures, like we're a band that has always played the tracks. We're based around tracks, and I like have resisted using Ableton for so long because I just don't want to go down that wormhole of like pro sound. But I literally downloaded Ableton today. We're going down there. Yeah, I keep getting everything that we're trying to do, like every other app that I've been trying to use just can't like handle it or has issues with our stuff. So,
well, and if you're going to do it,
you're going to do it right, I suppose. Right. So that's the other argument too. It's like, well, whether we're playing in a basement wherever or we're playing a fucking arena, like, it's good to know how to work to use this stuff now and have it so we can, I don't know, dress for the job you want, I suppose is the idea.
You don't need it in every situation though.
Right.
Like, you could be a band that has drum triggers. You don't necessarily need them in a basement.
Yeah, also that.
I mean, you're in a basement with a drummer. You're going to hear the drums.
It's so this actually just made me think of basements, tech death. Mm-hmm. Shout out to the homies in Postmortal Possession.
Absolutely.
We played a basement show with them years ago. And their drummer at the time, played through a trigger thing. Mm-hmm. And for fun, it's like, we never used one. So I was like, let's just leave this on for Joey. And it was just so funny how it sounded so sick for them and sounded so stupid for us. It was just so like inappropriate because they're just different drummers, different styles of music, different.
It's its own instrument.
The wrong ingredient for a different recipe.
See, whenever you're in that close proximity, to me, to my ears, it sounds like you don't just have triggers on the drums, but you brought in another instrument entirely that's in the room now, and it just sounds like, if the room is small enough, it can sound like, oh, what's this comedy instrument that you brought with you as well,
right?
Whereas if you were playing, a 5,000 seater, you wouldn't notice, and you would have all the right people behind you to make it happen. But yeah, in there's no covering up the real thing in a small venue.
No, that's a thing that we've struggled with Normal Creatures for a long time and playing smaller rooms, trying to get everything to just sound right because we have guitar player, we have a bass player, we have a live drummer, but we also have tracks. And those tracks, there's some like backing rhythm guitar in there because I refuse to put another human being in my band. But if anybody out there plays guitar, wants to join a band, maybe let me know. But backing synths and, there's all this other stuff. So it's like, okay, cool. This can work. It's all in time. But you have the issue where it's like, if the guitar cabs are like back against the wall and the PA speakers are 10 feet in front of them and half of the instruments are mic'd, it's like the sound is coming from too many different places and it makes everything sound all like wobbly. Yeah. It's like, how do you balance that? I've tried like bringing extra PA speakers to set up a PA by the guitar speakers for the synth, so all the sounds coming from the same area, over engineering. But hey, it kind of worked. Yeah. But that wouldn't work in every venue. And do I want to drag a PA with me to a bunch of places? It's just like
too much work.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm also one of those people, I think, that likes to like tinker. I get ideas for things and I'm always trying to, there has to be a different way to do this, a better way to do this. Like I can't just like set up a podcast studio, get everything wired, lights, audio, video. It's working fine. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want the computer here anymore. I want it over there. Then you just have to tear everything down and redo it. And then who knows? I bet you in 2 months, check in with me. Let me ask. We'll see if everything's in the same place.
Have you let well enough alone? Probably not. Yeah,
absolutely not. What's coming up for the band here. You got the album that is out. People can stream that on the digital things, I guess, or they could buy a physical copy if they're feeling freaky.
We have a couple local shows, and then we have a little East Coast tour coming up at the end of September. It'll be September 25th through the 30th. And then another little weekend run in the Midwest in maybe like, I think it's November.
Very cool.
Yeah. It's like maybe it'll be like 3 shows.
Nice.
Yeah. Just
all this and more at Rated I on Instagram. Is it rated _I?
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's got an underscore.
And if you didn't see in the title of the podcast, that's RATED _EYE, Rated I.
Oh, thank you.
very professional.
Such a
Thanks.
polite guy.
I'm trying.
Well,
Period. COM.
We don't have one of those.
No. We're not on the internet proper. Thanks for having us.
of course, the train's rounding the station. We got our hour in. I think we're pretty good here.
Right on.
Is there anything else that you guys want to drop? Let these people know.
We're
Israel or Palestine?
Jesus, Daniel. I would say I wanted to say we're about half. I'd say we're about halfway through writing the next album. So just buckle up. 2025. We'll try to get another one out there and just keep this train moving. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to not hit a wall when you put out an album, and we did the opposite of that. And
We literally did the opposite. We forgot all our old songs.
Yeah. Yes, we're so focused on the next batch, so we just plow ahead.
That's great.
Having a great time.
That's great. I love that. Super stoked to hear that. And hey, until next time, gentlemen, I'll see you around somewhere. Who knows where? I run into you in random places.
Yeah.
I see you all the time. Who knows? Wild card.
I'll be at the gig.
He'll be at the gig.
Now, do we say like a tagline here?
Yes.
Like always remember, keep one foot in the gutter and one fist in the goalpost.
Touchdown.
Yes.
I think it's the Googles.
I guess what should I do here? I guess we'll do like a thanks.
Bye.
No. And that's all, folks. Thanks so much for being here. One more time, Rated Eyes in the building. Make some noise, clap for the internet.
Fuck off, everybody.
I'll be back again next week with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Brian. Start the Beat is the podcast. 2024 is the year. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of the people around you. Peace out.
We mean it, man.
And we're done. That was it. That was a podcast.